I should start with the classic meme. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. If you follow this advice, don't do it. Okay, what is the thesis of my rant here? I think that people need to become more frugal and conscious of their spending habits. Now, I know that this rant is not going to change the world. I know it's not going to change a generation's approach to spending. That would be ridiculous to assume that. But I'm hoping at least one person listening or watching learns something from this and might adopt some habits that may be beneficial for them. The entire purpose of this is to hopefully change your view of spending on non-essentials. And the thing that allowed me to do that was trying to quantify all of my non-essential purchases into labor hours. For example, if I earned $10 an hour and I wanted to buy a $1,000 watch, that would take 100 hours of work, assuming no taxes, assuming no withholdings, all of that. Just for ease of the calculation, earn $10 an hour, want to buy a $1,000 watch. Am I going to be willing to work 2.5 full weeks to buy that watch? I may not. I may not be willing when I think of it in those terms. Sure, you may have $1,000 in your bank account, but then quantify what it took to get that $1,000. 100 hours of work, 2.5 weeks, almost an entire month of work to get that $1,000. Are you going to be willing to buy that now? And by quantifying my purchases in that way, by converting the dollar amount into labor hours, it really altered or diminished my willingness to spend frivolously on things that I don't need. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy nice things. Actually, the contrary. I think you should almost exclusively buy nice things. But when I say nice things, I don't just mean expensive things, I mean quality things. Buy things that are of high quality, and that just so happens to also be typically nice things, more expensive things. They are higher quality, meaning they're going to cost more to produce, and you're going to have to pay more to get them. So instead of buying something that is very cheap, I think you should be buying something that is a bit more expensive, and it's going to last you a very long time, and you're going to get a bunch of use out of, and you're not going to replace as soon as something else comes in, as soon as something else new and shiny comes out. So instead of buying a $25 newer microphone that may fall apart in 5 years or 2 years because you drop it one too many times, why not buy an SM58 or an SEV7, which are $100 microphones and will last you and survive through the apocalypse? They'll last you 25, 30 years. Yes, it's 4 times more expensive, but you're getting significantly more than 4 times the amount of use out of it. With t-shirts, you may be able to buy a $10 shirt or a $20 shirt. The $10 shirt may fall apart in 1 year. The $20 shirt may last you 3 years or 5 years. You are getting more than 2 times the value, 2 times the use out of that higher quality and subsequently more expensive product, the nicer product. So the first step really is trying to change that frame of mind of looking for the best deal, meaning looking for the cheapest priced product. Because typically the best deal, i.e. the cheapest product, is not the best deal. It's a piece of garbage product that's going to fall apart very quickly and you're going to have to replace it. If you spend 2 times more on a nicer product, that's going to give you significantly more use and in the long term save you money. Now, don't get me wrong, again, I need to make this clear. Just because something is more expensive does not inherently mean that it's going to be a better quality product. You need to do research into each of those products to determine which is going to be better, which is where reviews online and YouTube, anywhere, come into play, because you need to have some context of the build quality of each of those products as well. Now, with that part of the rant out of the way, let's talk a little bit more top level. I think one of the most important things that people should do is try to avoid going into debt, mainly credit card debt or unnecessary debt. There will be inevitable situations where you do need to go into debt, i.e. buying a car or getting a mortgage, getting a home. That will be inevitable. You will be Unless you're super wealthy and very fortunate to be able to buy a home with cash, unless that's you, you will be going into debt for that. That's to be expected. I'm not saying avoid that. But as far as I have a credit card with a $5,000 limit, I'm going to go buy a Neumann U87 on that credit card and then pay it off over the next 5 years. Do not do that. Do not put stuff on your credit card that you cannot pay off immediately at the end of the month. Once you have paid off all of your debt, I think you do need to build up your savings a bit. I hear this constantly that most Americans can't afford a $500 or $1,000 emergency. The number's always changing, but the moral of that statement is the majority of Americans just don't have any savings even to cover a $1,000 emergency. And I think you do need to build up that buffer, a couple $1,000 if you can. I think a really good rule of thumb, this is pie in the sky level stuff. If you can save up enough to have 1 year of expenses, I think that would be amazing, because then you could lose your job and you aren't going to freak out and think, how am I going to make rent this month? You have some wiggle room. You have a little bit of a cushion. And I am fully aware that that sounds absolutely absurd, but that is the pie in the sky dream. Have a year of expenses, or hell, 5 years of expenses. If you're this is going to be for the people who can buy a home in cash. For all of them, buy a home in cash and then set aside 5 years of expenses. This is terrible financial advice. Don't listen to me, but building up a little bit of a cushion to cover some unexpected expenses is really essential, because you don't want something to just come up. An air conditioning breaking, your car breaking down, losing your job. You don't want those unforeseen events to cause you serious financial stress or damage or harm, or even lead to you losing your home. So I think once you're out of debt, build up that cushion. Then you got to look into investing. And this is difficult to sell, because essentially it's saying, hey, go ahead and just put money someplace and don't look at it. That's my approach. And actually go see a financial advisor when it comes to investing. I just throw money into the stock market and say, I'm going to go put this there and just forget about it for 30 years and see how it does. Because in general, over 30 years, the stock market will go up. Maybe just get into indices. There are a bunch of other investments. Not even going to go down that road, because this is not financial advice. Go talk to a proper financial advisor to determine how your portfolio ought to be set up and what kind of returns you're looking for and how much you're willing to invest every single month. And then finally, once you've done that, you've paid off your debt, you're no longer in credit card debt, you have a little bit of a cushion of liquid cash for emergencies, and you are setting aside X% of your income every single month into a savings account or into an investment account for retirement or for really long-term or large emergencies, then you have a little bit of extra disposable income. That's where you get to have a little bit more fun. You can throw that into savings. Maybe you want to save up for a really nice watch. Maybe you want to save up for a new car. Maybe you want to save up for a new TV. You could do that. Or you could just go out and have some fun with it. I think that's where it gets really exciting. You actually have a little bit of extra cash to do with whatever you want. That's where the fun stuff comes in. But it really does come down to that determining and analyzing your purchasing habits and trying to make adjustments to save money. This last year, as I mentioned, I have become much more aware of where my money is going. I've tried to limit the large corporations that I'm supporting and try to support smaller businesses. In some instances, I'm not able to do that, but I will try to find the smaller local businesses that I can support as opposed to going to Starbucks. Some examples, I stopped buying soda because they're all massive corporations and none of them are good for you. Soda sucks. I stopped going to Starbucks. Why am I going to pay $4 for a Starbucks Americano, which is essentially espresso and water, or exactly espresso and water? Why am I going to pay $4 when I can make a pot of coffee for 50 cents? It's stupid to go to Starbucks and spend $4, and that's on the cheap side. Most people go to Starbucks and spend $6, $7 on a cup of coffee. You can make one at home for a quarter. 50 cents, 75 cents if you want to get some fancy creamer and some whipped cream. You could spend 75 cents a day as opposed to $7.50. You could spend a tenth of the cost. But people love their Starbucks. I don't subscribe to all the streaming services anymore. I used to have Netflix, Hulu, all of them. I can't even remember them anymore. Now I still have Amazon Premium because I subscribe to Amazon Prime. I never look at it. And I have YouTube Premium because I watch so much YouTube, I don't have ads. I cannot stand ads. And Shudder. Those are my streaming things. One that I actually use. That's it. One. I don't upgrade everything as soon as a new iteration comes out. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you've heard me screaming about my computer being a piece of crap. This is a 2017 iMac, and I'm still using it. I was about to upgrade this last year. I'm still using it. I realized I'm going to use it until it completely dies because there are no other ethical options in terms of buying a computer, and that is my solution to the ethical concerns I have about the manufacturing locations and the manufacturing practices of a lot of electronics. There's no way to buy electronics without contributing to that system, so my solution is I'm just not going to contribute to it as much as I can. That means I'm going to use this computer until the day it completely craps out. Then I'll buy the most ethically available option, at least that I can afford, because I was thinking Mac Pro, and then I realized that's $10,000. I don't have $10,000 to spend on a computer for a hobby. That's a lot of money. So it's about finding the most ethically available option in the budget that you have. So I am not going to I'm using an iPhone 10. How old is this? 4 years? 5 years old? I don't know how old it is. Maybe 3 or 4. But people always get the latest iPhone. I'm still using the iPhone 10. Why? It still functions perfectly fine. Why do I need a newer phone? Oh, because it has a slightly different shaped side? Who gives a crap? It's a phone. It functions. And I research where stuff is made prior to buying and try to buy ethically. As I mentioned with the electronics, sometimes it is just not a possibility, and you will have to purchase something that inevitably will have some unethically sourced, unethically manufactured components. It's about limiting the amount that we contribute to those unethical practices. That's the solution I have. Now, why am I sharing all of this now that I'm like 10 minutes into this diatribe or 15 minutes into this rant about money? I think there does need to be a massive culture shift in terms of consumption. Something that I wasn't expecting is finding this joy in locating these quality items and using them until I'm not able to use them anymore. And once they stop working, seeing if I can get them fixed. Apple AirPods, for instance. I had one of them go bad. I found a form that I fill out, I send it in, and then I got replacements. I got it fixed. Then they sent it back. I had a microphone go bad. I didn't return it to the place and then say, give me a new one. I want my money back. I'm going to buy another one. I sent it to the mic manufacturer and had it fixed. Currently, I'm not buying any DVDs, any media, any DVDs, books, CDs, Blu-rays, any of that stuff. I'm working through all the stuff that I've accumulated. A lot of people buy stuff and then never look at it, never read it, never listen to it. Listen to it, read it, do all of that. Actually consume the media that you buy, and then I'm going to tell you a secret. Here's a secret on how to get free media. There are things called libraries. They have movies, CDs, and books. You can go in and say, I want this movie, this CD, and this book, and you get it for quote-unquote free because your tax dollars go to fund libraries. How about that? That's what I'm doing. Once I'm done working through all of my CDs and books, which will take me another decade, once I'm done with all that, I'm going down to the library and saying, yes, one book, please. My tax dollars paid for it. I'm taking advantage of it. Therefore, you don't have to pay money for entertainment. You can get it for free, even though it's not free. You're paying taxes and tax stuff. So it's not free, but you're not paying additional money for something that you already paid for. And I know there's going to be a bunch of people saying, look at this guy with all this recording gear, all of this stupid, unnecessarily expensive recording gear, telling us how to spend more appropriately. You're absolutely right. It's insane, the gear that I have. But let me point this out. If I did not run the Podcastage YouTube channel, I would not have any of this, and I would still be using my trusty, dusty Shure SM7B. I still use this regularly. It is one of my most used microphones. It goes between this and the U87 recently, but I would still be using the SM7B, which I bought before I even started the YouTube channel.